All right. I'd like to start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is, all right. How has the golden city ceased? And through the spirit of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, this lesson comes to the inspiration of a video I was watching earlier of the brother Rakaya Kwam out there in England. You know, he did a lesson called America Mystery Babylon, and I just happened to catch that he was live. So I caught it like maybe around 50 minutes or so, in. So I watched pretty much the rest of it from 50 minutes to the end, and brother was getting down, going into, all of the, the way that things are set up, and how Esau was breaking things down. And it inspired me to do this lesson because that Edomite that he was playing the video on, that was breaking things down as far as commerce and things like that are concerned, he said that back in 1956, everything got connected a certain way. I forget exactly how I put it, but everything started to get connected, these different cities, by these different roads. And it brought to mind, the word traffic. Now let's just for the halibut. That's for the hell of it. Let's look up the word traffic. Let's see what comes up when we look up the word traffic. Let's see, merchandise. Definition. Okay, traffic. Vehicles moving on the road or public highway. The messages or signals transmitted through the communication system. Deal or trade in something illegal. But it's just pretty much, it should just say deal or trade. It doesn't have to necessarily be illegal. The action here is pretty much saying the same thing. Dealings or communications between people. Deal or trade in something illegal. It's just trade. It doesn't have to necessarily be something illegal. Traffic pretty much represents merchandise. And merchandise, is something that you buy. And this is how America has been set up, and this is how America became great, by the amount of goods that were being sold in this country, because at one time you had something called manufacturing. Now the word manufacture, let's go to the word manufacture, comes from the word hand. It comes from the word hand because it's something to, let me just go to manufacturing. The making of articles on a large scale using machinery, industrial production, because the word manufacture goes back to the word hand, to do with the hands. But during the time of, I'm not sure exactly when it started. I think I meant to, look into that a while ago, but I never got a chance to do it. Into the Industrial Revolution. I believe that was started somewhere in the 1800s. And pretty much what that did was that revolutionized the way of making goods in this country. And that's how they were able to mass produce the products that they were selling here. But the thing about it is they weren't outsourcing anything. They weren't relying on labor from other countries or cheap labor from other countries to send here to America. Thereby cutting out America and being the producer of these things, and instead making America the consumer, because the consumer is not going to be as well off as a person that's actually making these things. And shalom to the Akim on the comment boards, wherever brothers at. Shalom to the brother out in Mexico. He said mano y factura. I said hand, to do with the hands. That's right. So that's what made this country great. Of course, according to prophecy, and this is one of the things that made America great, was the ability to create and manufacture products in this country in-house, so to speak, and not have to import it from anywhere else around the world, you know, and they were able to ship it out and sell it to these different nations, and that's what made America great. But now, when you check out what's going on now, I'm trying to remember. There's something I was reading, trying to see if I could remember exactly what it is. If you check out how things are going now, America has fallen from that number one place. So let's do this. Let's read this scripture real quick. In Isaiah 14, 3 and 4, and then we'll get into more of it. See if I can remember exactly where that was at. Isaiah 14 and 3. And it shall come to pass in the day that the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrow, and from thy fear, and from the hard bondage wherein thou was made to serve. So this is a sign directly from Yahweh Bashem Yahushai as to what's going to be taking place when our salvation is drawing near. And this is one of the main things that was going to take place. It says that thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, and this is dealing with America. This is not dealing with ancient Babylon. How hath the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased. And when you look up the word oppressor, an oppressor can be somebody that oppresses you by putting you in fear, beating you, locking you up. But an oppressor can also be someone that's oppressing you monetarily. And if you brothers that have been listening for a while, you know that Elder Apostle Torah always spoke about something called a feudal system, which the word feudal goes back to the word fee. And everything in this country, in this society, is run by fees. That's why people are struggling just to pay their bills and put food on the table, because the fees are becoming exorbitant. The dollar is being devalued, and the price of living is going up, and the people are not making enough money to survive. Why? Because they're being oppressed, by this devil that's running things, which comes in the form of these international bankers. So the word oppressor is the word nagash, which means to press, drive, or press, exact. Now, what does the word exact mean? Let's go real quick here. The word exact, demand and obtain something, especially a payment from someone. See? And then here it says tributes exacted from the Slavic peoples. And the word Slavic goes back to the word slave. So it's a tribute that's imposed upon the people, a tax, if you will, to make them, pay exorbitant prices, for these goods, or for just living in general, and that's what's happening. So when you actually break this scripture down, it says to press, drive, to exact, drive, taskmaster, ruler, oppressor, tyrant, lord, exactor of tribute, to be hard pressed. So he could be someone that's putting hell on you by beating you and making your life miserable, and also could be someone that's oppressing you monetarily, by making you pay exorbitant fees for everything. You see? So it goes hand in hand. So now you go back, and it says, how hath the golden city ceased? And when you go to the word golden city, right, is the word madahaba, which means boisterous, raging behavior, boisterous behavior. It could be loud, because you see the streets of America are loud, especially in the cities. Fucking ambulances and fire trucks and just people in general. A lot of commotion. But it also says golden city, exactness of gold. And what they've done is they've exacted the world of their gold. And this is why when you go back to right after just before around the end of World War II, they had something called the Bretton Woods Agreement. And in that Bretton Woods Agreement, what they did was they moved Britain out of the world reserve currency status and put America there instead. And this is where America started to pretty much oppress the world monetarily. You see? So now what we're reading about is the downfall of America, Babylon the Great. And that's why it's saying, how has the golden city ceased? How this oppressor, you people that oppress the people so much, now you're being oppressed. What's up? What happened? I thought you was this big, mighty power. And also, Uh, um, Before I read on more, just my thoughts are kind of a little all over the place, but Lord's will, this lesson will be edifying because it's a big topic, so it's a lot to remember. And this is one of the scriptures that the brother Rakaya Kwam had posted. I'm not sure exactly where, but it has to be around here because I remember right there you go. He left it there for a while because I remember when I first clicked on, that's what I noticed. But now when we read Jeremiah 51, I'm gonna start at 12. It says, "Set up the standard upon the walls of Babylon." And what's happening right now is these nations are focusing their attention and their energy on their military against this place because they've oppressed the world so much. They've been on top so long. They don't want to fall. So what they're doing is they're what's the word I'm looking for? They're resorting to underhand tactics and doing like a lot of foul shit. In other words, they're hitting with low blows, because they're losing and they don't want to lose, so they're starting to cheat. It says, "Make the watch strong, set up the watchmen, prepare the ambushes, for the Lord hath both devised and done that which he spake against Babylon, against the inhabitants of Babylon." And that's what's happening. The Lord is preparing this place. So the same way that they became great and became rich and oppressed the people is what's coming back to bite them in the ass. Like the old saying, or the old saying goes, the chickens have come home to roost. In other words, you reap what you sow. So they're up at the point now to reap what they've sowed upon the planet. All right? And we know by looking at the history that they didn't do anything nice. Everything that they did was total wickedness. So it says, "O thou that dwellest upon many waters," and the many waters represents peoples, nations, and tongues, but it also represents the ships, that they have, that they go through the waters, and this is how America became great, by shipping out their goods to all these different nations. And this is why they back in, what was it, 1992, I believe it was, they brought charges against what's this guy, that was Nicaragua, thinking of something else. But that's why in 1992 they have something called the Panama Deception. And in the Panama Deception, what happened was that America was about to lose their charter for the Panama Canal. And they went down there and built their whole thing. And since they didn't want to renew the charter, I believe the charter was going to be up, I'm not sure if it was the year 2000 or somewhere in the 90s. So they did what was called the Panama Deception, where they went down there and they created all kind of ruckus and havoc, so that they can keep, the Panama Canal. Why? Because the Panama Canal is a very strategic place. It would be like back in the days, the Silk Roads and the different roads that would, the different merchant roads that would lead from city to city. Such as today in America, you have these different highways that connect all these different cities. And all those different cities that are connected, you have the traffic, regular traffic from people, but the major thing on there is what? The traffic of the trucks. And these trucks are bringing goods from one place to the other. They're being shipped from ships to the shipyards, as you see here, in these shipping containers. And then from there, these shipping containers, if you look at them, you always see them on the back of what? The tractor trailers. And they're shipped through the roads of America, which is called the traffic of America, all the way to your different grocery stores. And for a lot of them go to warehouses. And in those warehouses, what they do is they take them out and then they break everything up and they send it out to whether it's food or whether it's clothing or furniture or incense or oils or perfumes or expensive stuff, whatever it is. And this is that merchant city, America. All right. So now, going back here, exactness of gold. So America is that exactness of gold. And if you know anything about the Bretton Woods Agreement, that's exactly what they did there. They were supposed to uphold the standard that they agreed to, but they didn't. All right, you would have to do a little more research on it, you brothers that want to get more in depth into it. But I wanted to see if I could find. This is called Economic Power: Who Has It, How to Get It. And this is, I guess, a study that they did. And I'm trying to find out. There's one point in here. Here we go. You know what? Before I go there, let's yeah, you know what? Let's go there. The world's largest economy. At one time, the world's largest economy was America, but now, as you read here, it says in 2018, China was the world's largest economy for the 4th year in a row. Why? Because it overdid America. Why? Because China exports stuff. You know, they build it in their country, and they ship it out. Therefore, making all the money they get is coming back to them. America is a consumer nation now. That's why you have made in Taiwan, made in China, made in Indonesia, made in Mexico, so on and so forth. So they can't make the same amount of money that they used to when they made the product themselves. So they outsource it. These companies outsource it because it's cheaper to build somewhere else, and then they get the maximum amount of kickback when they sell it. So it says was the world's largest economy for the 4th year in a row. It produced 25.3 trillion in economic output, according to estimates by the International Monetary Fund. It contributed 90% of the world's total gross domestic product of $135.2 trillion. The European Union was in second place, generating 22 trillion. Together, China and the EU generated 35% of the world's economic output. You see, and we know about the European Union, which speaks about the 10 toes. It says the United States remained in 3rd place because they used to be number 1. But now they dropped all the way to 3rd place, producing 20.5 trillion. The world's 3 largest economies combined produce 50% of the world's total economy. No other economy is even close to any of these 3. The 4th largest economy was India, producing 10.4 trillion. Japan was 5th at 5.6 trillion. Germany, the strongest country in EU, produced 4.4 trillion. So it says the measurements use purchasing power parity to account for exchange rates changes over time. It also adjusts for government rate manipulation. And this is purchasing power parity, PPP, is how they take all of the economies of the world and they try to use one way to make everything equal. You know, everything costs the same worldwide, and they're having problems with that. You know, that's what the PPP was about. When you look into that, you know, it's to make all the currencies fit so that if you buy something in America or you buy something wherever, it should all cost the same. You know, when you break it down and account for it. All right. And like I said, you know, I left these links in the description box. You brothers want to get a little more deeper into it, be my guest. But let's read up here. It says economic power is the ability of countries, businesses, or individuals to improve their standard of living. It increases their freedom to make decisions that benefit themselves alone. It reduces the ability of any outside force to reduce their freedom. And you know that by doing studies in the scriptures that a nation's economy, you know, and a people's economy determines their freedom. Let's go to Proverbs. And I'm going to have to pause this for a minute. So I may have to, you know, turn this off and then come back and finish this off, Lord's will, in a few. This is Proverbs 22:7. The rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is servant